let's do this. And away we go. Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and this is Movie Crap. Opening it all like a review and shit, you know what I'm saying? Sorry for all the technical nonsense. It was a bit of a cluster of things when getting this all together. Away we go. Hey! Alright, cool. Finally, streaming. Man, today has been a crazy day. But we are here. We're live, doing our thing. Let's get my beautiful picture, I guess. Hey, look, and I'm in this room. And maybe this should have been lower. Let's lower it a little bit. Let's lower it a little bit. Hey, professional streaming. Me. Okay, we are here on Movie Crap. I am sorry. It's taken so long. I'm going to flip that phone over so I'm not looking at it. But yes, we are here. I'm going to try to react to the Annies, but I'm sort of like, talking about other stuff and want to talk to you guys. So maybe just let me know. I have the stream down here, but I feel like I probably should just not fuck up my bandwidth or something. Won't that mess it up? I see a lady talking and a guy in a suit. My reaction is they look like nice people. Anyway, you never showed us the bookshelf. Is this a thing? How about during the questions, Disco Spider, I'll show the bookshelf. I mean, it's right there. I don't understand. Anyway, Pan's back there, which I don't think you can really see him that well. This looks actually pretty good. I'm surprised. Show us your Mein Kampf. Watching Annie's via Paleo stream, but I'll show some support, buddy. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. And thank you, Ryan, for helping me do every Cartoon Network show ever. That was that took a really long time. It was crazy. Sorry, for some reason my stream key was not cooperating, and it took me a while to. Anyway, all right. So let's get into. Before I get into the main news or whatever, let me say thank you all for being as patient with me as you are, because I always have stupid little technical things, and I know you guys have other stuff going on. So I very much appreciate you guys being here. I gotta say that. Nathaniel Fogel, look at the We Bear Bears part. That's all I'm gonna say. You'll be happy. Anyway, so yes, I wanted to say that this show, and as well as all of my content, is entirely supported by you, the fans, either by Super Chat or Patreon. Any financial support that you can provide this show to myself to continue making videos is always very much appreciated. So either you can do so during the show or check out my Patreon, which has all sorts of cool options and stuff like that. It has my commentary series, which I did on Knock Force 1, what was it, 2 weeks ago, and Ecclesiastes 1. I'm regularly doing Knock Force commentary, stuff like that. Anyway, it makes you sad, Beyblade. Anyway, yes, what was I saying? So, let's talk about some movie news. If we see stuff that happens with the Annies, if we see stuff that's going on with the Annies, I guess I'll react to them, but we'll just go through the list here. I have two cool segments. One about one of the Oscar-nominated shorts that is not Kit Bull or Hair Love, but everybody says it's probably going to win. I need a review of that. And sort of do a lost film file during the stream about the Peppa Pig American Dub. If you notice, you watch my every Cartoon Network show ever, I actually I mentioned Peppa Pig, and it actually premiered on Cartoon Network, and I will get into that. That'll be in the segments later in the show. But Away wasn't nominated for Best Indie Feature, The Hell from Will. I think because not a lot of people know about that. Thank you for the first super chat of the night from Will. I think it's just not very well known, unfortunately. I forget what was nominated in that category, to be perfectly honest with you. But thank you very much for the super chat there. But I did not get to see that. But I think because all these things are political, and you have to have more stuff going on behind it, basically. But I agree, it is kind of bullshit because they do just sort of nominate the same 5 films everyone's talking about and don't turn people on to new films, which is kind of my problem with a lot of award shows. So I'm with you to a certain degree, even though I haven't seen it, so I can't like fully commit to that. Anyway, let's get into the news right now. Now, on yesterday's... oh, cool. Nathaniel Fogel noticed. He gave me some We Bare Bears figures. They're in the We Bare Bears part. There's also another thing on the bookshelf during 3 shows, and there's a good... You can, once you see it, you'll get it. I didn't see any comments about it, but I'm not going to tell you. I feel like people in the comments knows. Ryan knows, and Ryan, don't say anything. All right. Have I seen any of the Disney short circuit short? You mean Spark shorts? I've seen some. I think that's what you're talking about. I haven't seen that. But anyway. All right. So on Friday, there were 2 Disney live action remakes announced. The Bambi remake, which just got some writers, basically, which was kind of like, for some reason, the bigger story. But the actual bigger story to me was Pinocchio looks like it's going to have Robert Zemeckis write and direct that live action remake. To me, that's the bigger deal, because one, Pinocchio is very much a coveted film project. Everyone from Coppola to Paul Thomas Anderson has wanted to make a Pinocchio, not necessarily for Disney, but they have tried to make that. And I think Robert Zemeckis is, regardless of his recent work and everything he's done, is at least, I would say, an interesting filmmaker. What was it? The Walk was the last film of his I saw, I think. I didn't see the one where Brad Pitt's a spy or whatever. But but The Walk, what I saw, if you saw that in IMAX, that part was thrilling and amazing. But I am curious about the Pinocchio live action remake from Zemeckis, because he, at least, like, he's, you know, he directed Back to the Future. I mean, that's interesting to me. I'm not a big live action remake person at all. I think I've only truly liked one, that's Pete's Dragon, and some people wouldn't count that. But then when we get to Bambi, which became this huge thing, Bambi only got writers. There's no director attached to Bambi, which means they could pretty much, whatever they're writing could be completely changed. So it's sort of like, they're just sort of announcing they're developing one. And everyone goes, well, it's not a live action remake, it's animated, and Disney should admit that. I'm going to be honest, I don't give a shit. I'm really sick of this nitpicky thing, like, well, Disney should admit it's animated. Who cares? It's going to be awful. Like, I don't really want to get into this thing with, like, Disney back and forth. Doesn't matter to me. All that points out to me is that these movies are always pretty much terrible. And this Bambi will, surprise, surprise, not be as good as a film that's been universally beloved for 70-something years by, like, some filmmaker who's, like, sort of, like, you know, hot right now or something, or might be right for the material. I seriously don't want Favreau to do Bambi. I don't like these movies at all. I do not understand why we're like, Cartoon Brews like has this crusade to be like, well, Variety didn't call it a lot, they didn't call it animated. Like, don't care. Do not care. I don't give a shit. I really don't care. Like, the Zemeckis Pinocchio thing at least sounds interesting. That's at least a kernel of an idea. I think he's, you know, regardless of what you think of him, I think he's a smart enough filmmaker that he won't and he has enough power that he won't do, you know, just sort of like a boring Disney live action remake. But Bambi, there's no ideas there. We have no director, so who knows? Who knows if it even happens? There's no date attached. And everyone's going like, oh, it's live action. Like, fuck that. I'm just so sick of that debate. Just, why don't we just say, hey, these movies are awful. Let's not support them. The only controversy is a nitpicky one that no one cares about. The animation is ugly. Like, just like, leave this alone. Why don't we just go, hey, Disney, why do these all suck so bad? Why do you have a franchise that, like, even Aladdin came out on Disney Plus. Every kid I know who watched Aladdin, the remake, who tried to watch it, I'll get to, Ryan just saw I Lost My Body 1 for music. I think that's fairly well deserved. I don't know if I would have gone for that, but whatever. I noticed so many kids, I heard from parents, said, we tried to watch the Aladdin live action remake, and my kid said, I'm bored, can I watch the cartoon? Which is what I thought the whole time I was watching that fucking movie. So anyway, sorry, I just do not care about these things, and I'm so sick of, like, that's not a debate I want to have. Like, don't care. they're bad. They're not really living on in the public's consciousness. Basically, what these films do is they make $500 million in box office receipts, and then they seriously completely go away. They don't even sell merch. They just sell merch of the old property that people are reminded of because of this thing. I really wish they just re-release things. I know financially it makes sense to make them, but they are terrible empty movies. And the Zemeckis thing sounds interesting. I'll give them that. But, fun fact, Jim Angry. Thank you, Danielle Bippy. I don't think you've been here before. Thank you very much. I think that unless you're like somebody who's changed their name or something. But I thank you for the super chat. Cheers to you. Thank you. Have a good Saturday night. Anyway. Yeah, sorry. I'm so sick of that debate. Can we just stop having it? Stop having it. Just I don't care. Anyway. I will say the Zemeckis thing could be interesting. I think we can all agree. Could at least be not halfway boring. Anyway. Oh, Ransam Film is here. Zane Powers, The Angry Jim Show. Thanks, Ryan. Even as its own thing, Aladdin 2019 was atrocious from Will. That's not a question, but I'm going to read it twice. Even as its own thing, Aladdin 2019 was atrocious. Can we get that on a t-shirt? Oh. That should go on the poster. Not just for Aladdin, just as for random movies. Breakthrough should have that on there. Just because I like that. I don't know. So Laika had an interesting piece in Entertainment Weekly. One of the things that stuck out to me, although they're still developing other projects and are still going as a studio, and they talked about the Golden Globe win, which was a big surprise, was a big deal for them. You might not care about the... well, before I get into Laika, someone's mentioning Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. That's one of the many projects Guillermo del Toro wanted to do. I wouldn't mind him doing one, but it doesn't sound like that's ever going to happen. What was the... Oh, yeah, I Lost My Body. I don't understand how that won Best Music. I don't remember the music, and I saw that movie. Has anyone... By the way, is anyone in the chat... How many people have actually seen I Lost My Body? Because I've noticed it did get an advertising campaign in New York on some subway station. I saw some advertising, but I really haven't seen a lot of people talking about it. So I'm just... It's a good movie. It's just, maybe not amazing. Some people really love it, but I'm curious how many of you guys seen it. Just curious. Anyway, so Laika kind of talks about how they're going, how the Golden Globe win meant a lot to them, how they are trying to develop original projects. There was something with the Beatles, apparently, that they're developing that sort of got leaked. But it seems like they've even admitted, although they're making films for the big screen, they're probably going to have to do what Aardman did. They didn't say, they didn't specifically say like Aardman, but basically, like we know, like what Aardman was planning on doing, what Aardman has done with Netflix is making a deal with streaming. They sort of know that's probably going to come in their future, which is kind of sad for Laika. I would like them to continue to be there with to have stop motion on the big screen. It feels like 10 years ago there was an avenue for that, and it's sad, but I'm glad that they're able to still make... It seems like they'll still be around, but I'm curious if Netflix is signed with Aardman, if Laika will sign with like HBO Max or Amazon or something, but we'll see what happens about that. I see a couple people bringing up, a lot of people haven't said they've seen I Lost My Body. It's not really in theaters. It plays at the IFC Center in New York like one showtime a day, but it is actually, it's on Netflix. So if you have Netflix, it's on that. It's one of the films nominated for Best Animated Feature. I think it's the shortest one, in case you're wondering. Well, let's just go to Netflix and Studio Ghibli. Let's talk about that. So it's not a Yellow Submarine remake, by the way, Austin was asking. It's sort of a different thing. It's like it's something involving the Beatles. I'm not exactly, no one's really sure right now. They don't want to talk about it. So Netflix announced they had the rights to Studio Ghibli, which was confusing because it was like, doesn't HBO Max have that? I don't understand. That was announced, pretty big deal when they did it. And then it's apparently all the places that aren't America, which makes me wonder why they had it announced on sites that predominantly, have people who live in America look at them. But whatever, that was something they did. And now Netflix, got the rights to all the other things, and that's cool. I was like, all right, that's a thing, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, everyone's like freaking out. I've seen people freak out about it. It was like, one, I got all the Ghiblis on DVDs that I want, so it doesn't really matter to me. But two, HBO Max, to me, it's like HBO Max should have got that shit down so they wouldn't do that. But apparently, according to Ryan, Carmen Sandiego won for character design in a show. That's interesting. All right, so next up, the Razzie nominations. I tweeted about this earlier, but basically what's going on with the Razzies, traditionally what happens with the Razzies is the nominations come out the same day as the Oscars to kind of be the counterbalance of bad movies. But this is a very much a shortened, thank you, Oscar season, which is really fucking annoying if you... will be really annoying. It's really annoying because when you're trying to, cover all the Best Picture nominees and all this stuff, it makes it harder because there's less time. So because of that, the Razzies didn't want to deal with that stressful, shorter Oscar season, so they're not going to announce nominees until the weekend of the Oscars. I'm not sure when they're handing out awards, which is kind of bullshit because I thought the Saturday before the Oscars was for the Independent Spirit Awards. Probably me doing a stream. I'm sure Hollywood's waiting for that. And also the Razzies. And that's something you talk about on the Oscar red carpet. And also, like, look at that dress. It's expensive. And stuff like that. But we're not going to get these nominations till then. That's stupid. I don't like that idea. And the Razzies have, in this film world, have always been considered sort of, though they're already nominating the worst, but everybody kind of considers them pretty bad. Oh, Niji Kichu's here. I didn't see you there. Fun fact, an anime from the 70s called Violet's 5 helped stop martial law in the Philippines from the Marcos and liberated people in the Philippines. Is that true? Now I want to watch this. Is it a movie or a show, Niji Kishu? That's crazy. Cheers to you, and thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Nice to see you again. I'm sorry if that was very bad pronunciation, by the way. I'm sure I screwed some of that up. But that is an interesting fun... You're good at... Damn. Niji Kishu just came out of nowhere, dominated the chat with that one, I gotta say. Anyway, sorry. So the Razzies are... pretty much continuing to be the worst, and I'm fairly disappointed. I'm continually disappointed in them. I'm just like, by the time they give out the awards, where none of us are going to care about, award show season is over, and the Razzies are like, oh, we're beyond that. We don't want to get too stressed about that. And it's like, whatever, Razzies. It's just, you continue to be the worst. There's a trailer. I'm going to do a thing on Sundance. For some reason, this part is higher in my script, so let's read it now anyway. Horse Girl, or it just says that I'm going to talk about it. I don't really have a whole script right now. Horse Girl, which is a film starring Alison Brie, and looks kind of cool. It's going to be on Netflix. It sort of just looks like it is, where you're not sure if someone's going crazy or if they're really being attacked and harassed by aliens. We'll see about that. For a Netflix movie, it looks fine. I would probably say I wouldn't see it in theaters, but it looked kind of neat, and I like Molly Shannon, so we'll see what happens with that. So let's talk about one thing, and then I'll get into the Netflix data thing, because that's crazy. Bad Robot has finally announced, after their massive deal with Warner Brothers, Bad Robot is J.J. Abrams' production company, that they're going to, their first property they're going to make something about, or TV and movies, is Justice League Dark. Now, apparently J.J. Abrams will not necessarily be involved in this. There's probably other people and producers and so forth that work at Bad Robot, but he might be involved tangentially or whatever. Constantine obviously is involved in that, and things of that nature. So we'll see what happens with Justice League Dark. What's going on with that? No projects have been announced. It is just the first thing that they're really pursuing. I think we all thought that would be Superman. We're sort of just waiting for that. Klaus just won for character design, which I agree with. Okay. So Netflix came out. It basically came out that Netflix has found a different way to tabulate a view. Previously, they used to say if you watch 70% of a episode of a show or 70% of a movie, that counted as a view on Netflix previously. But they decided, let's change it up. And a view now counts as if you watch 2 minutes of a show or movie, that counts as a view. Now, that's a pretty different thing, and they're saying they're saying that this is something that the New York Times does, that BBC iPlayer does. They often say also that YouTube does this, despite that, if you look into it, YouTube has never really clearly said how a view is counted, like how long you have to watch for a view to be counted. That's why most people say please watch till the end of the video and so forth, because like we all don't really know. Even if you're watching at home, you'd think that count as a view, but we don't really know. So that's, that's fine. But YouTube has never publicly released that. And I know Spotify counts 30 seconds of a song as a view, if you ever want to know that. But Netflix is counting 2 minutes, and they're claiming it's an industry standard for those things. Because of their new tabulation view change, 35% more shows were watched under this than the previous view count. It's crazy. Their views went up, interestingly enough, because they changed their view count, which is an interesting way to do numbers. What this basically means for some things is, one thing specifically was The Witcher. The Witcher, they said, got watched by like millions and millions of people, like 70 million people, something like that. To count as a view for the show, for the whole show, is just like if you watch a single episode, that counts for a view for the show as a whole. So to watch that, you'd have to watch 2 minutes of The Witcher. If you did that, according to one of the articles I looked up, The Witcher is 474 minutes, every episode of The Witcher. If you watch 2 minutes, that is 0.04% of The Witcher. If you watch that little of that show, that counts as a view, because that is apparently a choice view. You don't know how slow it takes me to grab a remote, but clearly Netflix be playing. I find this interesting that they're really, really trying to do this. A lot of the info about it, I was really looking this up a lot because I find it so weird. Satan Powers put, so now Big Mouth is more popular. Yeah, I guess so. I find that show really gross. Thank you for the super chat, Zane Powers. But anyway, the other thing that came out of this is that Klaus apparently was watched in 40 million homes. No, it says, sorry, it was watched by 40 million accounts. 40 million different accounts watched Klaus, apparently. Netflix has always been weird, but I also find like when you watch a Netflix movie, unless like, it's like Stranger Things or something you're really into, most people it's such a sort of passive experience. Like, what was that, Triple Frontier? Like, that thing was supposed to be watched by like 50, 60 million people, and I don't know anyone who like really cares about it, like, or really remembers watching it. And it's like, if there was a movie in theaters and that many people watched it, it would be a big deal, but it's not. So all right, next, that I just found that to be really interesting, but I think that's one of the more interesting things is, and what people are really afraid of with streaming services and stuff is how these user counted seems sort of like a con and weird, and like they're not sure how this all works. And this doesn't really like have a lot of, give people a lot of faith in the industry. The Ankler, which is an industry newsletter that sends out emails. I'm on their email list. I don't do the pay version, but they were talking about how Hollywood sort of hates Netflix and is worried about Netflix and concerned about what they're doing. And this does not, I think, bring a lot of faith into Netflix, and it's probably not good for their future, especially now the streaming wars are heating up. By the way, I have seen Big Mouth. My wife and I tried to watch it once because we were like, we haven't seen it, and she's like, I know people like it, and we tried to watch it, and it is like, seriously, that show is gross. Like, I find that show to be really gross. And it's like one thing to like make like a short about like being adults talking like that, but like they're adults and there's several seasons of them talking about like jerking off as 12-year-olds and stuff. Like, that's kind of creepy. I don't know. It's like, it's one thing to do an episode about it, but it's like apparently to do that a lot. I was like, I'm not watching this creepy show. Anyway, this was sort of a thing, but I don't know if it is. Apparently, the movie Fanboys, which was a movie that got talked about in movie press a lot, but didn't actually, become that much of a cult movie, despite what people say. Apparently, they're considering making a sequel where instead of in the original concept or plot of Fanboys, I never saw it, is that they basically have a friend who's dying of cancer, and won't live possibly to see episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I would say he's lucky, but they didn't know that then, so they tried to break into Skywalker Ranch to be able to show him, The Phantom Menace. And it's supposed to be good, apparently. I didn't see it, and so I don't care. But Fully Cooley is a better puberty show. I will definitely sign off on that. I know my wife will too. We're both fans of Fully Cooley. Anyway, I have nothing against it. It's just like one of those movies you read a lot of stories about, and then you're like, when it comes out, it's like, yeah. I heard the director's cut is really great, and had problems with like Harvey Weinstein, all this stuff. But anyway, here we go. Hold on. Will said, surprised more people aren't bringing up the recent live-action Pinocchio remake from Matteo Gorin. Have heard positive things. I've not heard about that. That's interesting. Okay, cheers to you. Thank you very much, Will. I really haven't heard much about that. I know there's a bunch of other live-action Pinocchio remakes being developed at other studios, so that's interesting. Anyway, thank you very much. Why does my respect show up? Anyway, sorry. Thank you very much for the super chat, Will. But anyway, the idea for Fanboys 2 is basically, it was sort of a joke on Twitter from a parody account saying Fanboys 2 will be about them trying to get the Snyder Cut, the same concept. And they said, we're probably gonna do that, maybe. We're having a meeting about it. Maybe that'll be what it's about. And I was like, cool, the Snyder Cut will never die. Why didn't you just make this about The Force Awakens or something? I just don't. Or trying to release the unspecialed edition. I'm like, I don't know. It's sort of a dumb story. Maybe I shouldn't even talked about it. I'm sorry. Anyway, so, Sundance Stuff. My problem with covering and even reading stuff about Sundance is that there's too many projects who, in retrospect, you should have been talking about, but I haven't seen a trailer. There's literally a lot of stuff that you really can't know and you can't see, or you're just going off of descriptions. So it's not like my favorite thing to read about, because it's like, oh cool, a bunch of movies I won't see till 6 months, and these people did and get all the context that I don't get. So, but here's a couple projects that I found interesting. First is Happy Happy Joy Joy, which is a documentary about the making of Ren and Stimpy. If you watch the trailer, you'll notice that John Kay is not in the trailer, which is probably a good idea. I'm curious how they're going to handle the John Kay issue, even though Ren and Stimpy is a great show. I really love that show. How they're going to handle him and everything about the legacy of that show sounds to me like it could be an interesting documentary. I would like to see that. Another one is Miranda July apparently has a movie there, which I couldn't really find out the title of. I'm sure someone in the chat will be like, Jim, what about that one? But I like Miranda July's The Future and You and Me and Everything We Know, so that's exciting. Also, Brenda Chapman has a film, and I'm sure I'm surprised nobody's really talking about it, especially in the animation world, because she directed Prince of Egypt, and she also directed Brave. Brave was sorry, this computer's running out of battery because it's streaming. Hold on. Okay, sorry. Sorry. But Brenda Chapman also came up with Brave. She's the first woman to win one of the Oscars for Best Animated Feature. Oh, hold on. Super chat from Ella Kazari. I hope I said that right. Super chat, just because you're awesome. I had not a great day today, but I always look forward to these. Plus, they're great to listen to while drawing. Oh, I'm glad that's true. I'm sorry you had a crappy day. That sucks, and I'm sorry about that. I hope you have a better day, and I hope your drawing turns out good. If you like your drawing and would like to share it, and I know you have a Twitter, tweet at me, and I'll retweet it and say, like, this is what I drew during Movie Crap. If any of you do that, feel free to do that. I will totally retweet it, because that's cool. If you're making art, if you do not feel comfortable sharing that, I'm not pressuring you. Don't feel to do that. Just draw by yourself and feel comfortable. But I'm just saying that door is always open to all of you. It doesn't even have to be anything related to the show. Anyway, thank you very much for the super chat. That's really nice of you. I've noticed a lot of new super chat people today, and thank you very much. I'm glad I can make your day and your Saturday a lot better it sucks having a bad day any day. So especially on a Saturday, that sucks too. So I hope the rest of your night is a lot better. Anyway, cheers to you. And also, that's very nice of you. Thank you. So Brenda Chapman. Let's go back to her. Brenda Chapman, who also created Brave, and then that had that film taken away from her. And generally, I've always heard she wasn't treated that well by the animation industry. She's making her live-action debut. I think it's... Is it called Come Away? I didn't write down the name of the movie. Anyway, maybe it's Come Away. Maybe we'll correct me. But it is about Peter Pan... hold on. Rand Sam Film said, I'm so sad about dead meat literally being fed. I think you mean dead. I will talk about dead meat later. I notice you keep bringing it up in the super chat. I don't want you to think I am ignoring you. I'm just saying I got to get to other stuff. But I'm sorry that you're sad that dead meat is dead. Thank you for the super chat. Cheers to you. Anyway, sorry. But thank you very much. That's appreciated. But I will talk about it. I'm sorry. I'm just on this. It's on my list. That's what I'm saying. But I'm sorry that you were sad. I hope if you... By the way, if anyone gave to that Kickstarter... Well, I'll get to that. Let's just get through the Brenda Chapman thing. So the idea of the Brenda Chapman movie, which, to be honest, I should know the name of, is that Alice from Alice in Wonderland and Peter of Peter Pan are brother and sister. After their older brother has died, they're trying to kind of like bring up their parents' spirits, and their parents, I believe, are played by Angelina Jolie and David Oyelowo, whatever he was in Selma. Sorry, but I think that sounds interesting. I'm curious that she's animation going to live action. A couple of people were mentioning Howard the Duck. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I will look it up real quick after this segment. So there's a new Dee Reese movie. She did Mudbound. I didn't see it. It is based on a Joan Didion thing, and it's going to come on Netflix on February 11th. Which I've noticed a lot of the Netflix things that's premiering at Sundance is coming quickly to Netflix. It's kind of like they're using Sundance as a promotional opportunity. I mean, why not? That's pretty much what people do with it. And it's that looks cool. It has a good cast: Anne Hathaway, Ben Affleck, so forth. Then also 9 Days, which will let me know about. The title is Come Away. Okay, it's also apparently Wendy is also playing at Sundance, which is the film from Ben Stiller, which looks really cool. But Come Away, I'm curious to see a trailer for that. It's such a weird concept. But anyway, the Howard the Duck show got canceled? What the fuck? Thanks a lot, Feige. God damn, that would have been cool. What a jerk. Whatever. Fuck him. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna get canceled by Kevin Feige, but that's my instant reaction. Anyway, so 9 Days sounds interesting. It stars Winston Duke, and it is about, it's got a cool concept. It's about a bunch of souls who are competing to be, it's like a bunch of souls are competing to basically come into existence, basically. And the one gets picked and the rest just become nothing and just get erased. So, kind of like, I guess what people's sperm is or something, but way less gross. And sorry, I ruined that movie for you forever. So I'm sorry, 9 Days. But anyway, yeah, 9 Days sounds interesting. I'm sorry, Will, I fucked that up. It does sound interesting. That was gross what I said. All right, to rebound what I just did, which was stupid. Ransan Film has another super chat. Thank you very much for that. Cheers to you. What do you think will win Best Picture and what will be nominated for Razzie? I don't know what's going to be nominated for. I don't want to say what's going to win Best Picture because I'll do a predictions thing. I'm not sure if that'll be a separate stream or part of next week's stream or one after. I forget. Nominated for a Razzie, I would bet you Cats is in there. I think Norman the North will get snubbed, which is bullshit. I want it to be Parasite because if Parasite wins, though, it would be the second film to win the Palme d'Or and win it would be the second film to win the Palme d'Or and Best Picture. The other one being, what was it? Oh man, and I own it. Marty. Sorry, Marty. Marty is a film you should absolutely see. It's a great movie, and it doesn't seem like the kind of film that would win both the Palme d'Or and Best Picture, but it did, and it's great. And it's actually a lot of foreign films really influenced by it. It's a great movie. You should check it out. Arctic Dogs has a chance. Arctic Dog would have a chance. Ryan Walterson says that Endgame won live action character animation at the Annies. I'd agree with that. Why not? Why not? Why not? Again, Will, I'm sorry I ruined 9 Days. I'm sorry. It does sound cool. All right. So, Captain Marvel 2. Captain Marvel 2 has gotten a writer and is looking for a new female director. That's what they're trying to do. The original directors, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, are not returning. Apparently, they could possibly do something with Disney Plus or something or whatever. It sounds like they weren't too happy with them. I wasn't either, so Niji Kiju asks, would it be the first foreign film to win Best Picture? About Parasite, yes it would, which is another reason I wanted to win. I should have maybe said that first. Alright, so Captain Marvel 2 is looking for a female director, trying to go in a different avenue. I wasn't really happy with the direction of the original Captain Marvel. It wasn't my favorite movie. A lot of people got mad at me for that, for basically saying it was okay. Like, I actually didn't think it was that great. I don't think I gave it a positive review, but I guess because I didn't trash it, I'm like a SJW or something. I don't... Whatever. Most of the people who get upset about that stuff are really lame, I gotta say. It's like, it wasn't the greatest movie anyway. Why are you getting so upset? Vivarium looks really wild too. Great trailer. Thank you for the super chat, Will. Cheers to you. I was actually going to talk about that later, but I'll go over it right now. I saw Vivarium trailer. It does look cool. It looks really weird, strange movie. It might be a little too weird for its own good. I'm sorry I'm shitting on everything you suggested I talk about. But it actually looks kind of interesting. I'm a little into the idea. It's a very weird out there kind of thing. I would say check out that trailer if you're kind of into kind of a little more surreal movie. It stars Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots, who kind of just look at a house in a weird suburban neighborhood and kind of get trapped in it and get stuck there and end up having to raise a kid. It's pretty crazy. So I think that that could be interesting. Ryan Walterson said Dark Materials won for best TV character animation. I guess I don't really have much argument there. I get we're live action character animation, I'm assuming. So anyway, back to Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, which is trying to do a 2022 release. They're looking for a female director, and I have some choices, and I'm going to go through them in order. The three, I think, Lorraine Scafaria, which I'm sure if you've heard any article or something who they suggest female directors should do Captain Marvel. She directed Hustlers, which I really, really liked. It was one of the best movies of last year. You should definitely check it out. She's kind of like the one everyone's kind of positioning, and I would say that's a good choice. But I have two others. Jennifer Nelson, or Jennifer Yeon Nelson, I heard it pronounced, who did Kung Fu Panda 2 and co-directed 3. And she's tried to get into live action with the movie I forget the name of, and I'm sure Will tell you in the chat. I'm sorry I'm relying on you so much, Will. But she would be a good choice as well. I think she would do great in it. But my number one choice, and this I'm mentioning Will a lot today. I'm sorry if we call you out so much. Julia Hart, who directed Fast Color. When I saw that movie, I knew she would be. She's that's pretty much a comic book story. It's not a comic book, but it's sort of a comic book story. And I think that would be really great. I think she would knock it out of the park. If you see Fast Color, I think she would want to do a pass at the script and everything. But I think absolutely get Julia Hart. She would do an amazing job with Captain Marvel 2. That is my number one choice to do it. You should also see Fast Color. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a pretty good movie. Thank you for the $1 super chat, Ramsan Film. There was nothing you said there, but appreciate there. Red Bull number one down. Okay. So, two things about Toy Story. Lamp Life, which is a short that is going to take place, I guess, sort of between 2 and 3, but also between the beginning of 4 and then the rest of 4. about what happened with Bo Peep and what was going on with her. It's going to be on Disney Plus on January 31st. The trailer looked cool. It looks like the parts are like, what were you doing all that time? From Tom Hanks looks a little lame, but I'm gonna see it. Sophie really likes Toy Story 4, so we're gonna watch it. That comes out next week, I believe, on January 31st. And then I was like, well, when's Toy Story 4 going to come to Disney Plus? And I thought, oh, probably the same day. That's my theory. And then I looked it up. Oh, no, it's not. It's coming on February 5th. So on February 5th, you will be able to watch Toy Story 4 on Disney Plus. I do not know why it took so fucking long, but it didn't come out before the holidays. But I guess they thought kids would still buy Blu-rays, which they don't. So why are you doing that? I was actually thinking, why don't, when you release a Blu-ray, they go like, this is coming to Blu-ray. You have those articles like it's coming to Blu-ray or digital this month. Why does it say it's also coming to streaming later? But I guess because they want you to buy those things, they don't want to let you know how much time you have till it comes to streaming, But I think that would be helpful, to be honest, but I don't think they're going to do that. I saw Klaus One for Character animation. Ryan, sorry. Yes, that's cool. I agree with that. But apparently they're going to Nijikichu asks, I still wonder how Bo Peep got a new outfit in Toy Story 4 when her clothes were made of porcelain in the first two movies. I think they're going to go over that in Toy Story in Lamp Life. It sounds like a cool idea. It's like a cool idea for a short, to be honest with you. So, all right. Before I get to, I guess, the sadder part of the stream, Matt Damon and James Mangold, who did Ford v Ferrari, which is a pretty good movie. By the way, I've seen all the best pictures. I still need to edit all my reviews of them, but I have seen all the best pictures. Ford v Ferrari was actually a lot better than I thought it would be. But they're making this film called The Force together. I think they're a good combo. I like James Mangold. He did Logan. He seems to be on a bit of a hot streak. He's a good kind of studio director, but he has a little more oomph to him. So at least I'd be interested, to see the trailer. I don't think I'm like, I'm already there kind of thing, but I'm kind of like, sure. But they're pretty good. So we lost probably one of the great comedy directors and one of the Pythons this past week, Terry Jones. I wanted to bring up his thing there. Sorry. He directed Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which pretty much kind of seals the deal for me as being one of the greatest comedy directors of all time. And he was also part of Monty Python's Flying Circus, so there's that too. But it's sad that he's gone. I know he was sick for a while, unfortunately. But he was one of the main directors of Monty Python, helped directing Life of Brian, Meaning of Life, and Holy Grail. I think a lot of what made Monty Python great was part of his sense of humor. It is sad that although Graham Chapman, I feel like, has been dead the entire time I've been into Monty Python, the rest of them felt like we just get to have them forever. And it did sort of hit me when he died that, oh man, in the next 10 years I'm going to see Michael Palin and John Cleese and Terry Gilliam and everybody start to go, and that's going to be rough. But I think if you've never seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, I think to me it's the best Monty Python movie. I know everybody says Life of Brian. I think more because it's about something, but I think the laughs in Holy Grail are absolutely astoundingly great. I really like Monty Python. To me, is very much a part of how humor got the way it was, even more so than like SNL. If you look at like the surrealness of humor that we've had, especially with millennials and stuff, I think it's all coming from Monty Python. I think 100% think in 100 years we'll still be talking about Monty Python. Maybe not everything ages that well, but I think in the broad sense, I think those things are just absolutely hilarious. Just put on Monty Python's Holy Grail. You're guaranteed to laugh. Terry Jones, one of the main directors there, one of the great comedy creative voices ever. And anytime anyone from Monty Python goes, it's an absolute tragedy. Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's sad to see him go. Anyway, back to fun stuff. What's the next one? Oh, okay. Let's do. I have a couple here that are a little. Then we can get to Sonic. I might need to take a break because I'm drank a whole Red Bull really quickly, and as Archie Bunker said, you don't really drink Red Bull. You rent it. He didn't say Red Bull. He said beer, but I didn't want to say that because I sound like I'm drinking and doing a stream, which I'm not doing, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, a lot of people are watching. That's probably not. I feel like I'm being a little. Crazy. Oh, Terry Jones also wrote the script for Jim Henson's Labyrinth. Yeah, I forgot about that. Damn, Terry Jones is awesome. He was awesome. Man. Anyway, Will, opening up the second Rumble. James Mangold is in talks to direct a live-action reboot of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I'm going to say this right now. That's never going to happen. I'm sorry. That movie's been in development for so long. If David Fincher couldn't get it made, I don't know about Mangold, but I hope it happens. Anyway, cheers to you, Will. Thank you for all the support. I'm sorry if I was not. I feel like I've been salty to you, but Will is a good guy. He really always gives me interesting stories for the thing. I'm sorry I ruined a couple of those, but anyway. But he got me to see Fast Color, and Julia Hart would be. I think actually, Will. Do you think? Maybe I missed it in the chat. Do you think that? Julia Hart would make a great Captain Marvel too. Just let me know. I know it's not she should be able to make her own project or something, but I want to know Will's opinion on that. Thank you for the super chat. Cheers to you. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Niji Kichu here. Fun fact. I actually have a Matrix thing, and I'll just say that after this then. Fun fact. Before filming the Wachowski sisters, thank you for doing that, made the cast of The Matrix read textbooks on philosophy and quiz them to see if they understood what they were making. Only Morpheus passed on the first try. Huh. That's interesting. That's like when you read the thing about the Harry Potter cast, how they had them do reports based on their characters, and Hermione. Is this one you were going to use later? Maybe I won't say it. Well, I'll say it. If you do it. That was a good one. Damn, you're really bringing it today. That's good job, Niji Kichu. You're bringing it today. Also, Ryan said that Frozen 2 won for effects at the Annie's. Thank you very much, Niji Kichu, for the super chat. Very appreciated. Yes, so interesting Matrix 4 news. I don't do a lot of casting things. I preface that every time I say it. I should just do them and not be such a baby about it. But what was I saying? What's his name? Oh man, it's been a long day today. What's your favorite band from Ransan Film? I don't know, man. I'm not Hugo Weaving. How did I forget Hugo Weaving? Jesus, it's been a long day. My favorite band, I probably some lame like the Beatles, but maybe the Beastie Boys, maybe Outkast, maybe Houdini. Houdini's pretty high up there. Houdini might be it. I listen to them more than anybody. Houdini's album with The Freaks Come Out at Night, that's a great one. I like Jesus Beat. Does Niji Kichu ever not bring it? That's a good point. Alright, sorry. But yeah, Hugo Weaving, apparently because of scheduling conflicts, will not be able to be in The Matrix 4. Agent Smith will not be in there. Apparently, Lana Wachowski, I think that's the Wachowski directing Matrix 4, was not able to get the schedule to work, and she really tried apparently, and it wouldn't work out. Hugo Weaving has a bit of a history recently of demanding certain pay and being a little more demanding than he used to be. Specifically with the Red Skull thing, he wanted to make more apparently on Avengers Endgame than he did on Captain America: The First Avenger, which look, I get it was probably the most expensive movie ever made or something, and it is a huge corporate movie, but at a certain point you're barely in Endgame and Infinity War. And he was like, I can't be in 2 movies and make less. And I'm sort of like, bro, you were the lead in First Avenger. You were in 3 scenes. So they got someone else who's apparently really great, did YouTube impressions of Hugo Weaving. So, but anyway, Hugo Weaving will not make a cameo in Matrix 4. So, which is upsetting. I have a few quick ones. Yeah, I might take a break in a little bit. just to go to the bathroom, and I'll be right back. So apparently Admiral Akbar was supposed to be in Rogue One, according to people, but J.J. Abrams was using him first in The Force Awakens, and apparently you can't do that for reasons that don't make any sense to me. I think that's sort of stupid. But yeah. Will said, sorry, about Captain Marvel. What's funny about Captain Marvel is that I haven't seen it. Maybe it's the only MCU entry I haven't watched. Maybe Julia could make something cool if the studios would let her. I would agree. I think she could make it work. I think she could make it work. And she has like a good, her husband's a pretty powerful name producer, and he could like obviously like help make that relationship work. I'm not trying to, there's a lot of insinuations with that, but I think having a powerful producer, regardless of your relationship with them, I think can definitely help you. And I think she could do it. I think it would be really cool. Anyway, other things, the Parasite black and white cut of the black and white version or whatever of Parasite will be playing in theaters in New York and LA. It will not be on the Blu-ray that is going to be coming out. No one's sure when it will be coming out at any time soon. But it will be playing in a very limited release, and no one's sure. There's probably a super better version of Parasite, the Blu-ray, later, and if it wins a bunch of awards, and then they'll put it on there, I'd assume. But yeah, that's what's going on with it. Apparently he's had this cut done since before it played at Cannes and won the Palme d'Or, so that's kind of interesting. I didn't know. He really likes like really spending a lot of time on making these special black and white cuts, but this will apparently at least play at more places than his previously black and white cuts would play at like some one film festival in a foreign, in a place that's not America. This is at least playing in more places because Parasite's such a hit. But apparently, they haven't really released any more info. But they're making such a big deal out of this. I'd imagine they probably are. But it sounds like they're continuing to. I'm a little curious, but a couple people have brought up that you have to sort of shoot black and white and light it differently than color. And there's a whole theories about that. There was actually, by the way, this is an interesting thing. And I know I talk about William Wellman occasionally. I'm about to right after this as well. But so you're supposed to light black and white and color differently. And he noticed that, and he actually shot a movie in color that was lit like it's black and white because he thought it gave it a cool feel. It's called Track of the Cat. It's very interestingly shot. It's a beautiful movie. You should check it out. But I've heard that complaint before about the black and white cuts. I know Mad Max Fury Road, it was interesting, but yeah, it's like, you ever saw that movie The Giver, and it was like the black and white didn't work because they clearly didn't shoot it for black and white. So it cannot work, but I have hope that it would work. I don't know. One thing that I'm obviously a part of like a lot of big, cinephile animation groups, and I know a lot of people who like classic animation, but there's a Tex Avery Blu Ray that's coming out on February 18th. I know Ian was into it, one example, and it is the first time a lot of this stuff is getting like such a beautiful transfer. It is not like so you can see the whole arc of Tex Avery's work, which Cartridge Brewer and a bunch of people have pointed out, but other people are like, who cares, we're getting a Blu-ray of Tex Avery stuff. So if you've never seen Tex Avery, or you go YouTube some of it or watch some of it somewhere and you get into it, you should check out that Blu-ray and give it support. I also know, and I forget the date on it, that a Blu-ray of another William Wellman film, Beau Geste, which became one of my more popular William Wellman reviews recently. It's sort of weird. Not at the time I made it, but like kind of had an uptick. I know Beau Geste, not necessarily one of my favorite Wellmans, but it's a great adventure film from 1939 that's getting a Blu-ray with a commentary by Frank Thompson. One of the few people I can say who knows Wellman a lot more than I do. I have to say, he's definitely the best William Wellman expert, and him and I definitely have talked. He's a great guy. Anyway, so about, and Klaus just won for editing for the Annies, by the way. That is from, and I can see this guy, he looks happy. I'm just gonna, anyway. Alright, so, but yeah, you should check out the Tex Avery stuff. So, Bill Murray and each of the central living Ghostbuster cast members who aren't Rick Moranis will be in the new Ghostbusters Afterlife, but not too much. I want to preface that they were only at the shooting location for about a week, so it sounds like kind of cameos similar to what we saw in the previous Ghostbusters, which we shouldn't get into, and I don't want to. But yes, they're gonna have smaller roles. But they've specifically said like they're all in it, but they're only on set for a week, which to me doesn't sound like they have huge roles. But you know, a week they could have done a couple scenes. Who knows? But they weren't there for that long, depending on how quick Jason Reitman can shoot something. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm gonna talk about Sonic, and then I really need to go to the bathroom. So. The projections for Sonic, because I know this is a thing a lot of you guys care about, is 41 to 47 million. That is, of course, actually over the 4-day weekend. It's coming out. Actually, it is. I told people before it's on a Valentine's Day weekend. That's true. It's also on. Oh, okay. Sinram brings up, before I do the Sonic thing, Coen Brothers shot Man Who Wasn't There in color. Thank you very much for the super chat, Sinram. That is true. But they knew what they were doing, and also didn't Roger Deakins shoot that? I mean, that's. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. Anyway, there's a difference because they shot it in color, and then they knew it was going to be in black and white, and that happens a lot because there's not good color film. But the difference is when you shoot something in color and then later go, what if this was in black and white? There's sort of a difference to that. By the way, Sinram, I am going to read your full question. Because I find it interesting. I hope you got my message before the chat. And it's going to be long, but it's good. It has to do with Quibi and stuff. And he brings up a lot of good points. Anyway, so Sonic. Sonic apparently is going to make 41 to 47 million. This is going to be a big 4-day weekend, as Valentine's Day is, I believe, on the Friday. President's Day, which some people, not a lot of people, have off on that Monday. So it's a big movie-going weekend. It's actually a good weekend. The Sonic is coming out. But... 41 to 47 million is for the 4-day, not for the 3-day, which is in the 30 million supposedly. That would be lower than Detective Pikachu, which opened at 54 million, and that opened at 54 million with a regular weekend, which would be Friday to Sunday, not what this projection for Sonic would be, which would be a lot lower than Detective Pikachu. We'll see what happens. It's also, we're weeks out. The I think a lot of what when you get these projections, they're a lot lower because the advertising really has just started to ramp up. So we'll see about that. But I don't think this is the death nail. Maybe people think it is, but I kind of think Sonic will do a lot better because there's not a big kids movie coming out. And I know I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I was really against it before, but maybe it'll be good. So I think people are sort of turning around about it, but we'll see. I think a lot of like the buzz and the initial reviews will sort of play a factor. But I also think Sonic is a large fan base, and the thing with these larger fan bases that have never been tested is you never fully know who's going to come to the movies, because a lot of people who are going to see this movie aren't people who normally come to the movies in general. So when you get those kind of audiences, I've been saying the same thing about Top Gun Maverick, who don't normally go to the movies, but they're like, I will go for this. That's kind of an X factor that people aren't expecting. So I think that will be due. Henry Selick got the Winsor McKay Award. Okay, cool. All right, so I want to talk about Obi Wan. And then I'll talk about Dead Meat after that. But before all that, I'm going to use the bathroom. I will be right back. I will not take that long. And yeah, so hang tight. I will be back in just a couple minutes. You can examine my bookshelf here. I'll move the chair because I know that's a thing you guys want to do. So look, those are all my books. You can look at that. I'll be right back. I'm a very tall dude. Muppet Jim. I don't understand that. Oh, I'm drawing the heck out of this comic. You can see that. Oh, cool. Jim, could you upload a review? But it's just this. It's like the Full House video without Michelle. Anyway, Disco Spider, I hope you're happy. Oh, I like that Ninja Kichu. I like that Holmes and Watson idea. That's funny. All right, so are we back in the right? Hold on, let me look at. Since I moved this, get my water. Okay, this has been I've actually had a very good day. By the way, I had a friend. Before I get back into it, I had a friend kind of spontaneously tell me he was in New York. He was actually I guess anyone would know him. He was the webmaster from Cletus the Fetus, and he's a great guy, Mike Anderson. It was amazing getting to spend the afternoon with him. It was like a surprise, and I don't know, just like smile. I was like, you know what, this. I did actually wash my hands, by the way. I find it relaxing, but yeah, I don't know, just a good day to like catch up with a friend. It was like a nice way to like start. This Saturday, I work Saturdays, so it's like this is sort of the beginning of my weekend, and that was a good way to start it. Anyway, let's do this. So Obi Wan, the Disney Plus series, has been postponed despite us not having a release date. But basically what this means is they were about to start shooting, or they're going to start shooting soon or shortly or whatever. And they decided not to because Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, which I've noticed people do that. They go Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. Like, it's just Lucasfilm. She runs Lucasfilm. It wasn't like they're a separate entity. But, Jim's fetish? What? I don't understand. Drink? Well, anyway. Anyway. But Obi-Wan... Yeah, so apparently, but anyway, they decided to rework. They only had 2 scripts done, despite that she had publicly said she'd read the scripts and they were great, which is a thing presidents say, but then they were like, oh shit, maybe we should have read them. But they've decided to rework the scripts better and figure it out. Ewan McGregor has actually said that they just wanted to spend some more time, and it was more of a scheduling thing, and they're going to start shooting beginning of next year. But apparently whatever this show was going to be, it was going to have 6 episodes originally. They're planning to cut it down to 4, as none of these scripts have been written. Sure. I mean, it's not planned yet fully, so we'll see. Apparently also one of the other reasons is it was a little close to what was going on with The Mandalorian, and they didn't want to have another show close to that. Oh, he didn't say fetish, he said fetish. I get it. Did I say Cletus the Fetish? Anyway, Cletus the Fetus. Sorry. You should check it out. It's all on YouTube. Maybe you shouldn't check it out. Most of my commentators are like, that show's bad. But anyway, with The Mandalorian, to me, Deborah Chow, who directed the better episodes of The Mandalorian, and Ewan McGregor, or she directed 2 that people like. I don't think they're the better. They're all good. Are still going to be involved in the Obi-Wan show. The Mandalorian is not going to be delayed at any reason. But to me, like, here's the thing: if anyone ever wants to spend more time working on a script or working on a show, that's a good thing. I know I tweeted this, and it was basically like, you shouldn't really be commenting on the creative process if you don't understand that, like, if you're working for a company and they're like, hey, you get an extra week to work on stuff, that is like, or an extra year, like, that's a good thing to me. Like, I want a better Obi-Wan show, and I don't want where he meets up with baby Luke and Leia, which apparently was one of their plans, which sounds fucking lame to me. That sounds awful. I just don't get that. So, but to me, it's like, it's still going to happen, but I'd much rather them take their time with it, and specifically after episode 9, which sounds very rushed, that they were able to, come up with something better. But I feel like everyone commenting like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy, I'm so mad. I'm like, that's a good thing. Like, didn't we see episode 9? Nobody liked that. Like, I don't want another episode 9 scenario. I would like them to take their time. And since there is no release date on the Obi-Wan show, don't get too disappointed. It's not like you had a whole party planned. We didn't even know when it was coming out. We don't know when The Mandalorian's coming out. It's just like fall. Like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't. It's like, I mean, you know, leaves are falling or something. I just don't get it. All right. Before I talk about Dead Meat, which I know Sam Film has been dying for me to talk about, but I wanted to talk about, there's a kid on TikTok who's been remaking Spider-Verse scenes. You should check it out. His name is Just Jonah. That's JUSTJENOAH, in case you didn't know how to spell that. It's really cool. He literally like takes the dialogue and reenacts Spider-Verse scenes. It's neat. I've seen the filmmakers comment on it. They think it's cool. I think it's cool. I'm not on TikTok, so I just see them reposted other places. But you should check that out if you're a fan of Spider-Verse. It's cool. So Dead Meat, which was a Kickstarter launched by Maxwell Adams, who previously did Billy and Mandy. It was promoted actually by Pan Pizza, who did an interview with him. You should check it out, actually. Back in the day before I was on Pizza Party. I think it was before I was on Pizza Party, if I got my dates right. But it was interesting going like, oh, Pan helped promote this. Cool. But he had still been trying to make it all this time. It was like this puppet, kind of like a post-apocalyptic puppet show. It sounded really cool to me, but he's decided, because he was having problems with union and non-union actors working together. Just Jonah Jameson, nice one, Ryan. He was having problems with like kind of some entertainment law going into that, and it wasn't really going to work out anymore, and he's sort of just given up. And because he's just given up, he's going to refund everyone who paid for the Kickstarter. I'd like to know, if you are one of those people who gave to the Kickstarter, if you get refunded, how long it takes, what was the deal with that. Yeah, so Dead Meat is not happening. It's not happening. He's officially thrown in the towel. He's refunding everyone, which I think is cool. I think it's very honorable. He doesn't theoretically have to do that if he doesn't want to. And that sucks that he spent a lot of time and turned down jobs to do it, apparently. Part of me thinks, like, could we just, like, give him, let him keep the money? Just so he's okay. Like, I'm a little worried about him. But, yeah, I do think that's honorable. I'm sad because it sounded like an original kind of web thing. It almost feels like he should have maybe waited a few years, and when Netflix really got going, he could have pitched it to them and got it made. But it sounds like he wanted to make it its own independent thing. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. So if you ever wondered when Pan was doing that interview with him what happened to that show, it didn't become anything. Sorry, that's depressing. Yeah, I don't know. It sounded like a cool project. I wish it had worked out. I wish he had been able to do it. It sounds cool. I don't know how much. I didn't keep up with that Kickstarter. I really had completely forgotten about it until people were like, "Hey, are you going to talk about this?" And I looked into it. But I hope what he's made gets to come out at least. I think that would be cool at the very least. And I hope, Netflix, get on that. Get on that, I say. Like, come on. Talk to the guy. It sounds like a cool project. It sounds very original and different. And, you paid for a Dark Crystal thing. I think you can pay for this thing, too. Come on. I think it would be really cool. Also, so I don't really do a lot of internet shit talking on other people who make videos, but the thing that went kind of viral, I guess, of John Campea talking about specifically a character in Star Wars whose name, I don't really watch Clone Wars. What is it? I don't want to say her name wrong, but fighting Darth Maul, and he had this clip, and I'm not really a John Campea fan. I don't have anything personally against him. I never met him or anything like that, but it kind of goes into what he does, which is repeat the same thing over and over again when he does those streams, like a lot, and he did that and that. Oftentimes he'll do a thing like, some people are fans of this. I am not, but we should respect those people. And so he does a lot of sort of over talking and things like that. But I'm not. I just think it's like sort of what he is. He's more of a pundit than a critic. So I kind of am not exactly surprised by him saying that. But like the whole masturbatory thing came off like, ugh. Just gross. Rand Sam Film asks, what's a Kickstarter you look forward to that got canned? Cheers to you. Thank you. I've had some friends that had films and I can't even think of what they were now. So I'd say that. I can't think of a bigger one. Oh, I'm sorry. There is one. There was one about the He-Man Masters Universe line. of action figures, and that sounded really cool, and I don't think anything happened to it. It wasn't like a Toys That Made Us thing. It was like going to be its own thing, and it sounded really cool. Just about the Masters in the Universe action figures, and I don't think anything happened to that. So that was it was Osaka. Okay, so oh, they're doing a follow-up to the Kylo Ren sketch. Man, Ryan's like keeping up with what's going on in the world while we're doing this. So the Osaka thing with John Campea, I just think it's like, why does that matter so much that she's fighting Darth Maul? Like, obviously, she's not going to defeat him because, like, there's like, you know, this thing called Episode 1, and I just don't get the whole thing with it. But I get that that's like his brand is like being outraged at like only a few things and just being very cautious, but he's very much a pundit. I don't think he's like a critic. I don't think he's more of a fan than a film person, and you kind of get that from him, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think I'm not surprised by him getting upset with this character in a point that I think is a little stupid. What's funny is I actually saw a video of his where he's talking about how we should be supporting the rhythm section because it's by the Broccoli producers, and then making a film about a female spy that's not James Bond turned into like James Bond, a woman cast as James Bond, like a separate franchise of Blake Lively as a spy, and we should actually put more support behind that if we really all believe in a female James Bond. And it was like, hey, actually, that's a good point. That I thought that was a good thing he said, you know, with the guy who just did the Duel of the Fates script too. I thought they had a lot of positive heat on them, and then they did that thing, and it was like, oh, wow, you did a reverse course there. I felt like you were getting respect, and then, oh, no, this is over. So, but that was pretty embarrassing. I don't know. He's very much, I guess as the kids say, I guess he's very much the cringe. But it's sad we don't have as much movie discussion, so sometimes it's like that, or what's it, Midnight's Edge, which I haven't seen them do an Obi Wan video yet. Maybe I missed it, but I was like, come on, Midnight's Edge, that's like your whole brand. What's going on? Anyway, alright, so I'm going to talk about one last news story. It's maybe a more industry thing, and then we'll move on to segments, and then it'll be questions. I have a few Patreon questions and a long one from Sid Ram, and then I'll get to you guys. So, but don't post questions now, later. Anyway. Oh, well, thank you, Demented MK, for coming out just for a little bit to say that. So, I don't know if you heard about, but China, there's a virus in China called coronavirus, maybe? Is it coronavirus? I'm not sure. Anyway, there's a virus that's really bad, and people have died. I should not be your news source for this. I'm going to tell you that. But for the movie part, sure. So basically, because of that, they don't really want people gathered together in large groups, even though it's Chinese New Year. And basically, a major holiday has totally been canceled. It is like the bear. Okay, coronavirus. So coronavirus, because of that, you can't travel as well. So it's basically like, you know, sort of like if Christmas or Thanksgiving were canceled here because of... Didn't that happen in Contagion? I think it... Oh, God, that's depressing. But because of that, all holiday releases are canceled. Now, these are a lot of films that necessarily we wouldn't see. I think it's like Detective Conan 3 or Detective something 3 got... all their releases got canceled. And I don't think those are a lot of films that I would necessarily get to see or anything like that. But because of that, their U.S. releases were obviously canceled until further notice, until they can figure out what to do. But because when this whole thing is, they hope to be over, they will get released, and that's going to push back the releases of other U.S. films, and some U.S. films will get their releases canceled in China. Total, right now, they're saying the global box office could lose $1 billion because of this. Because that would have, what those releases would have made in China, there were more local films. There weren't any, I think, U.S. films part of that lineup. But particularly, they're saying Mulan could actually not come out in March like it was supposed to in China originally. So a lot of box office dollars could be at stake. Obviously, people's lives, which is more important, but because of that, we're going to probably see like some release date shift, at least internationally, maybe for some of those films with their release in America. If you're interested in those films, of any of them, if in Chinese cinema, then and especially mainstream big blockbuster Chinese cinema, you should check those release dates, because they are definitely going to be subject to change because they don't want any piracy. So it is going to be a major shift in terms of global releases, and I wouldn't be surprised if like you hear Dolittle came out there in 2 years. Dolittle was another one that got messed with. So normally, now moving on to the segment part of Movie Crap. This is the part where I talk about segments and stuff. This is normally I just talk about shows I found that were interesting, but I kind of wanted to do something different for this one. And then I'll talk about a short called Memorable after this. So, Peppa Pig originally premiered in America on Cartoon... Okay, sorry. So, Peppa Pig premiered on Cartoon Network originally in about 2005 on Tickle U. Or Tickle U premiered in 2005 at least. And basically, when Cartoon Network got the rights to Peppa Pig and other English shows, instead of doing how Peppa Pig is very famously English in America, and, you know, in most places that speak English, it's obviously dubbed in other countries, they decided to dub it with American voices. And they did that for other British shows, including Little Robots and Gordon the Garden Gnome. And Little Robots and Gordon the Garden Gnome didn't get the second life that Peppa Pig got in the 2010s on Nick Jr. When they decided to actually, you know, release the original English dubs of Peppa Pig. But in that, they had an American dub. Most of the American dubs of all these shows have been completely lost, according to sources, which didn't sound like that final to me. They didn't sound that final to me, frankly, or like official. But supposedly all these tapes of the American dubs have been lost, and we can't find them at all. And the only thing we have is a little like kind of advertisement where we hear what Peppa sound like. It's weird hearing Peppa say "mom" and not "mummy" and things of that nature. But it's interesting that Cartoon Network, out of everyone, and they're pretty like into animation history, and like one of the Tickle U shows was actually Gerald McBoing Boing, which, if you don't know, is based on one of the most famous cartoon shorts of all time from UPA, but which I don't really understand that short that well, like what happened there. But Peppa Pig had its American debut in this like weird kind of American voice, and it seemed like a weird thing. Like, why would you want to dub Peppa Pig with an American voice? But sometimes they do that with Secret World of Arrietty. They made an American dub and an English dub. But unfortunately, all these English shows that had American dubs, Little Robots, Gordon the Garden Gnome, we can't find, no one has any of that. And Peppa Pig, all we have is this one advertisement and part of a game where you can hear Peppa's parents have their American voices. That's it. All of it is completely lost. But it's weird that Cartoon Network did that. Tickle U was kind of a huge kind of disaster. A lot of parents groups were against it because a lot of parents groups were completely against Tickle U because they said, oh, well, it won't educate kids, but it'll show them to have a good sense of humor. Which, by the way, Nick Jr. doesn't really educate kids either, I gotta say. They have these things like, oh, Sunny Day shows you, you know, entrepreneurship and like doing haircuts or whatever, and like really like lame things. Just same with like Disney Junior, all that stuff. They don't, other than Sesame Street, none of these shows teach your kids anything. It's just that Cartoon Network had the audacity to say like, well, we can't really do that with Cartoon Network, but maybe kids will laugh, and everyone got upset, which I find to be a little funny. Each of these shows on Tickle U were only 15 minutes. You wouldn't get like how you get Peppa Pig now, where you get a whole half hour. You just get about 15 minutes of Peppa Pig in American dub. So there's probably isn't a ton of it. Supposedly these tapes are lost probably because they lost the rights, and they're probably like, just throw this crap out, who cares. If anyone has a whole episode, I would love to hear it, because that just sounds bizarre. Like, why would you want to dub it in American? That happens in other languages as well. They want certain particular dialects. They want certain particular dialects. They do that a lot in Spanish. They do that a lot in other languages as well, that they think it'll play better in different regions for a certain way you say separate things. It'd be like if we read something in America with a southern accent. Frankly, I think it'd be a little stupid. But I don't really get why you'd want to do this to Peppa Pig, and obviously Peppa Pig did not take off under Tickle U. It took off under Nick Jr., under its English accent, and actually kids now apparently get English accents from watching too much Peppa Pig. My daughter didn't, but despite my wife being English, she does have Sophie does have particular phrases she says that have an English accent, but she didn't get that from Peppa Pig, interestingly enough. If you didn't know, my wife was English. But I think it's kind of an interesting lost media because it's sort of like how Cartoon Network totally failed to tickle you, and they had one of the biggest massive hits of children's entertainment in the last 10 years they had, and they managed to screw up. I think oftentimes we talk about Nickelodeon screwed up chances, but this was definitely one of the times that Nickelodeon I think this is one of the times that I think this is one of the times Cartoon Network completely dropped the ball and lost out on probably one of the more massive hits of kids entertainment, and Nick Jr. was there to just sort of pick it up and actually do less work by just going like, hey, hand me the tapes, let me just put this on the air on Nick Jr. Because since it was already such a hit in England. So it's kind of interesting that Cartoon Network came up with such a bizarre way to release Peppa Pig, but I don't think they really knew. I think they thought it would work, but it was just such a but if you really think about it, so much of Peppa Pig's identity is that English accent, and robbing it of that, I think, was probably a pretty bad idea in general. As well as Tickle You, which ended on January in January of which ended in January 2007, and then Peppa Pig premiered on Nick Jr. on February 5th, 2011. So, but unfortunately, all of the American dub is lost, other than that one ad and a part of a game, and that's all we have of anything of the kind of Tickle You American dubs of British shows, which was probably a big mistake. So it's probably good for Cartoon Network that we can't find any of this. And this is unfortunately a forgotten footnote in probably one of the biggest franchises in children's entertainment. All right, I saw Zane Powers say I should have a kind of a card or something for the segments. That's a good point. I need to get better at some of that stuff. By the way, thank you. That's a good idea. Thank you, Zane Powers, for that idea. Thank you, Jeffrey Matavlo. I think Matalvo. Sorry. Well, thank you. Sorry, Jeffrey. I can't pronounce shit. Thank you for being here to see me live. Yes, they 4 kids Peppa Pig. Good one. All right, so hold on. I want to have all the right things for this. So I saw one of for best animated short, I actually thought it'd be cool to try to review each of the animated shorts, but none of them are really available online other than Hair Love and Kit Bull, both of which I've reviewed. I'm actually going to cut out the segment of Hair Love from the very first stream, actually. It might have pictures on it because the stream is choppy because I really didn't know what I was doing. But I'm going to do that. I think that might be the next video. But I couldn't find all of them, but I could find the one that a lot of people think could actually win, and it's the one none of us are talking about because it's not Pixar or Hair Love. And that is Memorable, which is a really interesting short. It's on Vimeo. I will try to, when this is a separate video, it'll be in the description, but I'll try to tweet it out tomorrow. Why not? Let's do that. But it's an interesting short about an artist who's losing kind of his mental capacity and his memory. It's done in kind of an interesting kind of puppet stop motion sort of thing, and you see him sort of slowly lose a grasp of who he is and understanding of things, and they do that through some interesting character designs and very surreal stop motion animation. Memorable, which is a good name for it because it is both memorable and actually about memory, I think is one of the more beautiful animated shorts I've seen in a long time, and very experimental and weird and strange, but also going into the surrealness and the kind of scariness of kind of not knowing what's going on, and also seeing your life kind of pass right before you. And if you've ever had a relative who's lost their mental capacity, seeing them struggling, and you kind of see, they do a lot of interesting kind of more surreal and kind of strange animation techniques, but it all has sort of a purpose. It all had, like, everything that's weird in this movie is it's like very plotted out, sort of understanding, very well written film, while also being very surreal and strange, but almost doing it so purposefully. This was directed by Bruno Colette and I think Bruno Collette, who did a really great job. I find this film to be, one thing about animation is animation can be experimental and weird in ways that I think a lot of mediums in filmmaking cannot, and this pushes the medium to such a crazy degree. It uses things and does interesting, weirder things. It has like a cell phone and iPhone sort of melting in a way that's like very memorable. The character designs and the way his skin feels with the clay feels weird and strange. It's just a really beautiful, kind of amazing short that says a lot about memory and the feeling of loved ones and seeing a loved one wash away. It has a great part of the wife. The ending just killed me. It's such an arresting kind of film. It's the kind of short that makes you sort of want to hug your loved ones and appreciate your life while you have it, but also kind of fear the aging that we will all eventually have to go through. It's I think before I saw this film, I kind of went, how can Hair Love really hit me quite hard. I like Kid Bull a lot, and I thought those were pretty strong shorts, but this is just sort of another level and shows you kind of what the medium of animation can really do with a short like this. And I think it's definitely a must-watch for anyone who loves animation, because it's more about what kind of stories you can tell and what you can do with. I think animation is a tool that you can tell stories with, and this shows what a great storyteller can use all those surreal and interesting animation techniques to really do. And Memorable kind of pushes the medium forward in a lot of ways, in ways that I don't think a lot of animation studios will want to get that experimental and strange, while also kind of piercing your heart in a way that feels almost a little too real to bear with, but is probably something that we're all going to have to bear with, and is probably something we should be watching to understand more about the possibilities of humanity, animation, and kind of our own existential crisis that's going to come to us all. So anyway, I hope you're all cheering up. That was cool. All right. Sorry. All right, so let's do some Patreon questions. That was hard to slap back from. Let's do some Patreon questions. I have two that are shorter, and then Sinram's longer thing. Please watch Memorable. You should check it out. It's a different kind of animated thing. I know we all talk about animation a lot, but we should be experiencing more things than the regular stuff we do. And it's one of the animated things that's going to win, a big animation award. We should check it out. All right, so I'm going to read these, and then we will get to the questions in the chat. Have them ready, but don't post them because I have a really long thing from Sinram. So when you hear me doing the Sinram thing, maybe post it. So first off, from a guy named Crystal. This is a good question. What movies would you recommend to someone who wants to learn more about film history? Here's what I'm going to say about that. There's a film called Detour. It is one of the greatest film noirs of all time. It is in the public domain. It is very easy to see, and it's like an hour long. You have very little excuses not to see Detour. It is a really good movie. It was a low-budget film noir. I know so many film cinephile experts who swear by it and love it and consider it one of the best films of all time. Check that out. Try to do, I would say, if you want to get more ground, don't do these big epic ones. People say like Lawrence of Arabia. If you really want to see that, go ahead. But I would try to see the shorter kind of 30s films, because you can see the possibilities of things. I would also use the AFI Top 100. I'm not agreeing with every film that's on there, but you will kind of get like pieces of film history and things like that. But I would definitely say my 100%, if you're like, what's a film to like kind of get, what's a classic film everyone should see? I would see Detour. I'd say Bonnie and Clyde's great. Gun Crazy is another one that's great. Things of that nature. I would just try to do the shorter ones. Don't go into a big epic one. Do the shorter stuff. See the stuff from the 30s. Public Enemy is a favorite of mine. Wild Boys of the Road, Heroes for Sale. Those are all kind of shorter, really good 30s films. I would try to do stuff like that, because that's like not a ton of time investment, and that way you can, see a really successful economical kind of film, learn something about film history, and sort of move on and kind of because it's better for you as an early cinephile to like just kind of get the basics and the ground rules of things, and then move on and go into more experimentation. Not that you can only watch those things, I'm saying, but just like, but Detour is my number one pick. Go see Detour. I think you'd dig it. It's a great, great movie. Will, this is from Will, who's who's really been contributing to the stream. Thank you very much, Will, by the way. I've never understood this, but why do you think January is the dumping ground for horror movies? Just seems weird that after celebrating New Year's, people would go, hey, let's go see Paranormal Activity 16, The Return. Like is just a strictly for a determined box office return, or is it just a trend that's stuck with studios? I think it's actually both, because January is sort of a dumping ground, but horror movies, these are mostly horror movies that are pretty cheaply made. Like they're not very expensive. So if they bomb in January, it's not a big deal. And since there's nothing really out, they have a chance to make more money. Like look at The Escape Room, did really well, and kind of nobody really noticed it, but it did pretty well. And I think like that's pretty much why they do it. And then if it bombs, they're kind of fine, and then it can come out on DVD or whatever around the summer when people have a little more time to enjoy those things. So I think that, I think that would that's why. Sorry, I think I answered that. All right, so this is from Sinram, who's in the chat right now. How's it going, Sinram? This is I gotta say, you have to check out his channel. I especially like his videos where he goes through like summer. The summer kind of movie releases and what made that summer great. Those are cool videos. Anyway, here we go. From Sinram. Howdy, Jim. So much... Okay. I had some thoughts about the new video app you talked about in the live stream. I don't know why anyone would want to watch from horizontal to vertical or vice versa in the middle of the video unless it's just for giggles. But the GIF you showed that was a demo for the Turnstile video format, this was from a couple of weeks ago, but it still, I think, is a good thing, from Quibi, simply showed that you could watch either way. What bothered me about it was the video being shown was clearly cropped in the vertical version. Good point. There was much more picture information, a greater scope, if you will, in the horizontal. It would make much more sense to me if these videos were shot with the same subject in the dead center of the frame, with the extra image area all around it that could be either used or cropped out depending. That way the horizontal version could simply block out the image space above and below the subject, while the vertical version could block out image space on either side. It doesn't look like Turnstile is doing that. You may have heard of a photographic process called Super 35. This part, I actually find this whole thing interesting, which is why I'm reading it, by the way. That became super popular in feature films during the 90s. James Cameron was one of the earliest champions. T2, True Lies, and Titanic were all shot in that format. It was also used for films such as Shortcuts, Apollo 13, Seven, Casino, LA Confidential, American Beauty, I will get Flippy Dip. I will get to your thing, but thank you for the super chat. I want to get this all in one book, but I'll talk about that in a second. LA Confidential, American Beauty, and The Kill Bills, to name a few. The idea was that a movie could make an easier transition to the square shape of home video if you made a widescreen movie with regular lenses instead of anamorphic, if the DP framed each shot with the important stuff in the center. Then this image could be cropped vertically and magnified for theaters, then cropped horizontally. That's interesting, by the way, for VHS and TV broadcast. You'd miss some image area in either version, but if the shots were composed carefully, nothing significant would be lost. Widescreen movies made with anamorphic lenses lost more than 40% of the image when they were cropped for home viewing. Of course, that would only work for Quibi if the Turnstile app was able to automatically crop the video correctly, depending on which way the smartphone was being held by the viewer. If it can't do that, then the creators of Quibi would indeed have to edit two separate versions of their videos, which I think is actually what's happening from what I've read, which would be a huge pain in the ass. The makers of Super 35 would have to do this as well, but they had lots of staff and were well paid for their work. I don't suppose that would be the case with the Quibi creators, but Cinram wrote me a message, by the way, and said that he didn't realize that it was really well funded, and he didn't realize the whole thing with Quibi, but a lot of this is a good point. Personally, I'd be annoyed when I see a Facebook post for a movie trailer, such as the new Top Gun, which is severely cropped at the sides, just so an image can be bigger in the feed. I was also pissed back in the 90s when I found out that Super 35 movies were being cropped in the theater, but I got over that by the time the decade came to the end. What about you, Jim? Have you ever felt irritated upon learning that a particular version of a film you saw in the theater wasn't showing as much image as possible, that this could apply to non-IMAX versions of Skyfall, Blade Runner 2049, and Infinity War, which were which are used for home video, even though the IMAX versions would fit a flat screen much better. Okay, first off, there are a couple things about that. Is actually both Batman Mask of the Phantasm and what was the other one? There's another film I heard about that was actually made in 4:3. I think it might have been it was All Dogs Go to Heaven was animated in 4:3, but to put it as a theatrical film, they didn't want to release it in 4:3, so they actually zoomed in on it so it could be released in theaters. So yeah, that's it. It has happened. So if you buy the Blu-ray of Mask of the Phantasm, the 4:3 version is the best version, not the widescreen version. Then you're losing stuff. Basically, I have heard of that happening. I don't like the Quibi thing, and I prefer the horizontal view. And I have heard they're going to make them cut two different ones. And oftentimes, I knew people in I might have mentioned this before. I know people who direct advertising say they have to shoot it two different ways, and that's the idea. Maybe the GIF example that they provided was not the correct way that they're actually going to present it. But I like your Super 35 idea. Actually, I think that would be a much better way to do it, because you could just flip it, and as long as you center the frame correctly. But that brings up a lot of good points. I'm really glad Sin Ram wrote that, because I thought it was a really cool piece. I want to give Sin Ram credit because that is a really long thing, but I want to say he is a really smart guy in terms of film, and check out his YouTube channel. I've said it a lot of times, but please do that. I thought that I feel like you said way more than I could, but I agree with you. They should find a way to do it correctly. But I do not like seeing films that are not properly cropped. And that's why, like, Batman Mask of Phantasm, although I've heard it's a great film to see in the theater, I sort of almost don't want to, because they're actually, if you show it on film, you're showing it in the wrong aspect ratio, because it was actually made for home video. It was because they originally thought it was just going to home video, and it wasn't going to be in theaters. But I've heard it's like, with the score and everything, it works. It's interesting how that happens. You wouldn't think films would be improperly cropped in theaters, but it happens quite a bit. Anyway, I actually forgot to read that a couple streams ago, and I felt bad because I thought he did a really good job writing it. Anyway, I hope that was good enough for you, Sinram, but you did a good job with that question. I don't know if I'd always read a question that long, but I thought that was worth it. All right, before I get to the main questions, I have a super chat from Flippa Dip Dip. He said, "Sup, Jim? Don't know if you've done this already, but I'd like to hear about your Knockforce Newgrounds days sometime." I mean, that's like a lot of stuff, but I will say the difference between what's going on now and with Newgrounds in terms of an upload, and I'll just say this quick thing and then we'll move on to other things, is when you upload something to Newgrounds. I remember I was in college when Newgrounds big, I was doing Cleese the Fetus. I would upload something to Newgrounds. It would be up, I would see it was up, I would go to class, I would come back, and it would have like thousands of views just because it was there. And that's the big difference between online video then and now. Is just for existing, you would get thousands of views because people were bored. Because Cleese the Fetus or Knockforce were franchises on that site, it would do well. And you would basically have certain ways you'd release shorts then, because you'd have your own site, and then you'd later release it to Newgrounds. So you get your own fan base, and then you go to Newgrounds, which is sort of a weird thing that you do back then in terms of the release strategy. Now it's like everything is everywhere at once, or you might post it again later. But then it was like, it was on, your site then. It was on Newgrounds then. If there was another video sharing site that popped up, you put it there as well. So it's like a cartoon or a short film you'd made could have like months and months of a release then, which just doesn't happen now. You really, when I'm promoting that, when we're doing the stream, it's like I'm posting on all my social media accounts going like, hey, check out Movie Crap Live. It just operated in a different way. So I don't know if I do a full thing, but I do have the commentary Knockforce things, which is a Patreon exclusive, and Cletus Fees, which is all. I do a commentary series about my former stuff and working on that. So that sort of answers that, but I don't know if I do a full video about it just because there's like so many memories. I'd never really cover the topic exactly, but I hope that's sort of part of it. All right, so I'm going to go from William Ellman up here, and we'll go down, and I'll try to answer as many of these as we can. And yeah, I think let's do like 10 to 15 minutes, and then yeah. All right. So, do you have a favorite anthology movie? I would say either A Touch of Sin or Creepshow. Do you have a favorite vampire movie? I would say either Martin or Vampire. I would say Martin would be up there. I like the original Dracula. I know that's lame. Anthology films. Pulp Fiction's sort of an anthology film, but I know that doesn't count. I would say Fantasia. I know that's lame too, but I'm gonna say it. I would also, yeah, we'll just go with that. And Chops on Carrot. What's up, Doc? Nothing much, Ryan. You're having fun tonight. Question from Courtney: have you ever walked out of a movie, didn't finish a movie because it was so bad? If so, what was the movie? I don't ever walk out on movies because I don't think that's right, especially because even though I have Regal Unlimited or I had Movie Pass for years and years or whatever, I really don't do that unless it's like, I don't know. I've never done that. I was prepared to do that if like my wife went into labor or something. But I was watching the film, the Clint Eastwood with an orangutan movie, Any Which Way But Loose, and that movie was so aimless and stupid. I did turn it off, and I don't normally do that. It was just too stupid. Why does Tickle You exist? I don't know. I think they just wanted money on that. Nathaniel Fogo, any updates on that project you and Izzy were working on? We haven't talked about it in a while. We've done pizza parties since then, but we just haven't. I think we're both busy with life. I would like to do it. I'll bring it up to her. I don't know what's happening with that. But neither of us have. I think it just got dropped because of life. But I hope it happens at some point. Zane Powers, what's your current most annoying ad you've been getting? It's probably from Spotify because I have free Spotify, and I think currently it's Peytonville. But I like Talk Turkey, a different kind of talk show about whiskey with Matthew McConaughey. That was interesting. I don't know. Austin, favorite doctor from Doctor Who? Always Tom Baker. Thank you for liking Godzilla, Courtney. Question, do you have a favorite Giallo movie? I would say The Bird with Crystal Plumage or Don't Torture a Duckling. I would say Blood or Black Lace, but I'm not the hugest Giallo person. I don't know as much as I should, so don't take that as like a de facto thing, I would say. It was I like Tyler's like damn long question. Jordan, question, thoughts on A Scanner Darkly, My Private Idaho, and Gleaming the Cube. I've not seen Gleaming with the Cube. I've actually not seen The Scanner Darkly. I've seen parts of it. It seemed cool. I remember liking My Own Private Idaho, but it's been a long time, so I don't want to say anything too much. Star Brand Lives, has fatherhood changed the masterpiece that was Cleese the Fetus in any way for you? I did want to post something like about Cleese the Fetus when my wife was pregnant. She was not into that. I would say, here's the thing about Cleese the Fetus is I'm glad I made it because it was much more into like disgusting, gross out humor then, and I got that all out of my system, and a lot of the inappropriate stuff I was more into then, and I'm happy for that, and I'm glad I was able to kind of leave that behind in that project and then move on from it. And that's, to me, that I felt that way before I had a kid. I don't know if it's really changed. I've seen a few of them doing I'm not trying to plug the Patreon, but I am doing those things, and it has, re-looking at it, I think I'm less like, this was really good and I'm glad I did it, but I'm actually having to sit there and watch them, and I'm like, oh, it's so embarrassing, a lot of it. But I think if like Sophie, when she was older, made one, I would understand the need to do that creatively, because I think sometimes when you're first getting into animation or film, like you want to do all the stuff like you thought no one would do or no one would say or something, and I think it was a healthy release, and I still feel that way. So I don't know if that really answers that question, but what's your favorite kind of pizza? Don't say pan. Actually, I like pepperoni and sausage, but I'm more into cheese than I used to. Satoshi Kon won a posthumous Winsor McKay award. Okay. That's cool. Alex the Menace, I thought Phantasm, they went in and explained the whole thing before release. Like, once they knew it was going into theaters, they went ahead and reframed it. Yeah, they did, but it was still, like, zoomed in. Like, you can't totally reframe it. It's better in 4:3 if you watch the two versions, if you have the Blu-ray, in my opinion, at least. Zane Powers, what's your favorite Star Wars Expanded Universe character? I really don't know the Expanded Universe that well, but I like the Timothy Zahn books. Like, those were all great. If there's a character in that, but I haven't read that since the 90s, so I couldn't say. I'm sorry. Question, what podcast do you listen to? I've been listening to The Greatest Movies Never Told. I listen to a lot of William Bibiani and Whitney Seibold's podcast, Cancel Too Soon, their movie review podcast, critically acclaimed, stuff like that. They're really great, and I recently been pledging to their Kickstarter. I think they're really great. I would say stuff by them. Leonard Maltin's podcast, depending on the guest, he had Greta Gerwig on. That's been pretty good. I haven't finished that though. But I would say greatest movie. The Best movies never made. 80s All Over is a great podcast. They didn't get to finish, and they go through a month of everything that got released in the 80s. I think they got to like 84 or something. But that was a good podcast. So you should go listen to that. Anything with Drew McWeeny I'd listen to. But I'd say critically acclaimed and Cancel Too Soon are two good ones. From Jordan, what do you think made the Matrix sequels so bad? What do you think made the Matrix sequels so bad? Do you think they are bad or just average? I didn't really like them at all. I thought they were pretty bad. To be honest, I haven't seen them in a while. I just think it was like they shouldn't have made sequels. I think prequels were probably a better idea than that. And I don't know, some parts of it are cool, but I just think it was like we didn't need explanations for everything. Jim Frozen, yes. I guess I was frozen at a point. I'm not sure. Zane Powers, have you ever seen a movie where you felt like there was too much romance? No, I haven't. Sorry. Question from Ace the Windwriter. Have you ever gone to a big film festival? And if so, what was the most memorable thing that happened to you? I really haven't. I was at Tribeca, like, giving out postcards. Nothing memorable happened. I've, like, helped out with, like, the Baltimore Film Festival. I was at the Johns Hopkins Film Festival in Maryland. I went one Tribeca thing, and I was supposed to see Tron, and I thought it was at a main show place, and they're like, no, it's over that way, and I just really had to, like, cross a bridge and go down an alley, and it was, like, in a much smaller screening room, and everyone there wasn't seeing a movie at the place we first went that made us go to the other place. They were, like, having a party, which is, like, the most film festival thing I can think of. The Nerdification. As a fan of your talks with your dad vids, I was wondering why there wasn't an Endgame video. I think you mentioned something in a previous stream that suggested he didn't like it. No, he likes Endgame a lot. That's not the case. It was more just because he wasn't in town during Endgame and there wasn't a time we could do it, and it wouldn't have worked on Skype and stuff. So I wish we had done that. I want to do one for Doctor Strange 2 with him. But it just, we don't live in the same state, so it's hard to do something like that. It's more of a logistics thing and less of a he didn't like it and stuff. But then when I was like, do you want to do one like over Skype? And he was like, I don't know. I think we have to have seen it and then we have to, talk about it later kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Jesus B. Jim, can I give you the Beastie Boys audiobook? It's your first give Audible. We'll cover it for free. If you want to, if you're talking about my Audible link, it's still there and older stream info. I really kind of like abandoned that whole idea. But if you would like to, I would very much appreciate it. I would like to listen to it, but don't feel like you have to or anything. But it would be cool. That would be cool. I would love to listen to it. I will let you know what I thought of it if you do that. But thank you. That's very nice of you, Jesus B. Zane Powers, questions, thoughts on the movies. Mortal Kombat, are we there yet? Never Ending Story 2. I saw Mortal Kombat as a kid, and I remember really wanting to see it. My parents wouldn't let me see it, and then I saw it on home video and thought it sucked. And that's my last memory of it in the 90s. True story. Zane Austin said, I did because my sister got sick and threw up. It was during the Hunger Games. Wow. Okay. Where are we? Okay, Zane Powers, there's a monster in my truck. What do I do? You just ride with it, baby. Will, question, what was the first movie you saw that genuinely betrayed your intelligence and investment? Transformers 2, I guess. I don't know. Ever sleep through a movie? Yeah, but then I rewatched, I think I fell asleep during Deer Hunter, but it was really late, and then I just picked up where I thought I left off. I was like young, so Alex the Menace, when it comes to your time at film school, what is the thing you would say you were best at then and now? For example, were you more of a writer or director? I guess I directed and I wrote and I did some cinematography and I edited. I probably more enjoyed editing at the time, but I also liked writing and just like doing too many projects and things like that. I was very much like, let's take out any equipment on weekends. I didn't even need it, just to have it, and because I'd come up with something. Like stuff like that. I was kind of more just like love just being creative and meeting with other people. That's the main thing. I do. Zane Powers, can you tell us about how you killed the mafia? I don't know what that means, but I did, I guess. What's your drink of choice in alcohol? Whiskey, actually. John Benjamin, one for voicing Bob. How many upcoming events are there? I'm not sure. I think there's just ones on Saturday. I'm going to do a stream the day after the Oscars at probably 4 p.m. I'm not sure if they're going to do a predictions one on the stream or a separate thing. I'll figure that out later. I'll let you know. Follow me on Twitter. Look at the community posts. Stuff like that. I'll let you know. Zane Powers, are there any kinds of humor you find offensive after you became a father? And is it a case of personal bias you acknowledge or believe it is truly vile? Most of the stuff, it really hasn't changed my humor. There's nothing, like most of the gross out teen comedies that I guess I demographically should like, I didn't like then, and I still don't like now. So it really doesn't change much for me, to be honest with you. Sorry. Jordan, what is the edgiest movie you've ever seen? I guess Pink Flamingos? I don't know. I'm not sure. Sorry. I've heard Joe Dante's podcast is good. I should listen to it. What celebrities have you lost respect for from Zane Powers? I don't know. Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, Woody Allen, stuff like that. Nathaniel Foga, question: what was your favorite way to keep your hair growing up? I was always sort of longish. So, Josh Gad won for voicing Olaf. Ew. How can I grow my review original film channel? I would say just like do reviews of stuff that you don't see a lot of people doing that you're interested in talking about. But I would also just like try to make as much stuff as you possibly can. That actually really helps. You know, there's a lot of ways. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out. So I don't know if there's a perfect answer to that. I'm sorry. Zane Powers questions: why did you fill the stream with things that made me personally sad? You're out to get me, aren't you? Yes, I am. Tuca and Birdie won for TV writing. Sorry, Zane Powers. Do you have any faith in humanity? If not, what made you lose it? Just being around humanity, man. I don't know. Pig Pancake, would you watch a live action version of Moana called Maui, and would it have the original cast? No, I don't know. What did you think of BoJack Horseman? I like BoJack a lot. I wish I could have seen more of it. Who's your favorite communist leader? I like that got in there. I don't really have an answer though. All right, so that's going to be it. We've been streaming for a long time. This has been a thing. I want to thank you all for being here. Sorry for the problems at the beginning. Please check out my videos for every Cartoon Network show ever. Ryan Walterson worked really hard. That was the longest every show ever. It was why there was not as many videos this past week. It was just very challenging, but we got it done, and it's awesome. I love it. I'm glad to have finished it. I think people like the every show evers, but that was a cool one. But anyway, thank you very much for Ryan Walterson again for helping me with that. Also, the Kit Bull review, which is a segment from the last one, and then my review of Infinity Train Book 2 came out. So I will hopefully have more reviews. I think the next one will be the hair love thing, which will probably have pictures and you won't actually see my face because the stream was really choppy, and even the recording I have of it is not unchoppy. Thank you very much for the end super chat there, Ransam Film. Anyway, good night, everyone. Have a good Saturday night. And all that stuff. Thank you all very much for coming, and I hope you guys all have a good Saturday night, and I will see you guys next time. And subscribe if you would like to.